Hey Moralis developers, this is Chris from Moralis, and in this video I'm going to be taking you through Ipfs and how to upload both files and objects so you can build that functionality into your dapp when you're programming. So you probably already know a little bit about Ipfs already, so you've learned about what it is, where the data is stored, how to find it, how it all works, how to consume the data, how it's downloaded, and how it works with peers and all of that kind of stuff from the magazine if you're already a member. So we're going to go and just take a look at this very simple application that incorporates how to use it from Moralis and uploading that data directly to Ipfs. So imagine that this is just a simple NFT that we're uploading with the metadata that we're going to be assigning now. We'll just call this NFT1. We'll just call this the description for NFT1. And we'll upload an image for it here, which will just be this simple image that I've got saved. We'll press go, and in the console we'll see that it's uploading, and then it gives us a final Ipfs link. When we click on it, it will take us directly to the metadata, which is what we're going to program now, put together how to compile this particular object with the name, the description, and the image, which itself is a secondary Ipfs upload, which takes us to our image. So I'm going to take a look at building that with you now, and so follow it through with me, and let's get started. If you like the content, guys, leave a like, subscribe to the channel, make sure you subscribe up to the Moralis magazine as well, join the Discord if you want to get involved in the community, and I would really love to see what it is that you're building with Moralis at the moment. Okay, so I'm open up the editor, and in my Visual Studio Code I've got a blank template here to work from, so we need to go to the Moralis website and go and get some Boilerplate Code to use. So if we go straight to moralis.io, into the documentation here, scroll down, and we'll use the simple dapp in 3 minutes setup. Copy and paste that, and we'll take it over to our application, paste it in here. We've got the SDK code already installed up here in the head. We'll maybe just change a few of the things in here. We've got two buttons that are there as standard, but we're actually going to need to build a few different things here. So the first one we'll keep as a button, but we'll just call that login. The second one we'll have is actually going to be an input. So let's just build that out. The input will be for the metadata name of the upload that we're going to be putting. So we'll just call it metadata name, and we'll give it an ID as well, which will be exactly the same thing. And we're going to need to do this both for the name and for the description. And maybe just put a placeholder in there just so we know what it's for. And we'll say that that is the name. And maybe just put basic break after this. Next thing we need is a text area. And we'll call the text area metadata description or something like that. And we'll copy that into the ID as well. And 30 columns, 10 rows. Yep, that's fine. Put a break after that as well. We'll need another input for the file this time, and so that's not going to be a text input, that's going to be a file input. We'll give that a name, and we'll just call it file input, and we'll also give that an ID as well as the same name. Okay, and maybe just put a couple of breaks after this, just so it sort of styles out from memory how we want it to look. And we'll just say, we'll just call this go. And when we click that button, it's actually going to need to run a function. It's going to need to run our logic. So we'll just build a function called go in a moment. All right, in a minute we're going to go and connect our Moralis server. Once we've done that, we need to come back and think about how and what we're going to build. So a few things we need to figure out first of all. Now, in order to use Moralis code, we're going to need to make sure that we're logged in and authenticated. Otherwise, we just won't be able to access some of the functions that we need. So we've got to log in. So I'll show you how to do that again. The next thing we're going to need to do is upload the files and the objects. And we want to split that into two parts. The first thing we want to do is upload an image. So that'll be a file. The second thing we want to do is upload the metadata object. And that will combine some text information from the inputs in the text area here. And it will also combine the uploaded image that we will do in here. And of course, what we're then going to do is go and do both of these at the same time. So we'll have to build a function to go. All right, so that's the kind of the basic steps for what we're going to do once we've connected our Moralis server. So let's go and do that now. You need to go and get an app ID and a server URL from the Moralis website. So if you've already got a server set up, great. If you don't, then create an account, log in, and in the servers section, you will need to create a new application. Mainnet's fine. Call it something, choose a region, click on mainnet and choose all of the chains and press add instance. Wait a few minutes for that to load up and then click on view details, get your server URL and your application ID from here and paste it directly into your app. Now I've already done that, so I'm just going to go ahead and paste clipboard, which I had pre-arranged or pre-prepared. Okay, so that is good. It's not going to look very good at the moment, but that is how it would work. Just one also thing to mention, with my Visual Studio Code, I have an extension installed called Live Server, which enables me to just run whatever code that I've got in the browser. And this is what we've got here. So you can see it's not styled as it was at the beginning, which was not styled very well at all. And really the only difference here, we've missed out a couple of the breaks that were after the login button. But yeah, we'll come back to that. Okay, so we need to start now going and connecting these pieces together. So we'll start off with this login function. So in the Moralis documentation, we need to go to the users section. And then we will go to crypto wallet login. We'll just use MetaMask for this because it's very, very easy. We'll just copy this piece of code and we'll go back into our editor, paste it in here. Now I need to wrap this into a function and it will be an asynchronous function and we'll just call that login. So let's just build that out. So it's a async and when it's called, it will run the Moralis code that we've just taken. So let's just quickly read through that Moralis code and see if there's anything in there we don't need. Moralis.web3.authenticate, and then it's going to console log the user's ETH address, which we don't really need. We just need it to simply say logged in or something like that. Don't need it to say anything really. We just need it to authenticate us and log us in. So once we're authenticated and logged in, we can start using some of the Moralis functions. So that is the first one done. The next one is uploading an image. Now we've already built the button to upload the image. We need to do something with that. So what we will do is go to the Moralis docs and we will go down to the files section, click on IPFS. There's a couple of videos individually for working with IPS files and also working with IPS objects. So I'm just combining these two together now, but go and check those out. Some great work from the team. So the first thing we're going to do is take a look at this one here, which is saving files to IPFS. And we can just copy these first few lines out of here, and we'll go and paste that into our editor. Again, we're going to need to wrap this into a function like we did before. And so what it's going to do is create a variable which goes and grabs the file input.files, which just so happens that the name on the ID of our file input is called that. So that will work. It will just go and grab the first file that's uploaded into this. And then it will activate it, or it will go for a new Moralis.file and it will take the data name and it will also take the actual file itself. And once that comes back, or once it does what it needs to do, then we can call this function, which is to save IPFS, and that's where the magic is. So let's go and put that into a function, and we'll just simply call this function upload image. And again, that's going to be an async function, which will do that bit of code. Now, once you save IPFS and call this function, it actually gives you access to the file itself, the link on the IPFS link, and also a hash of the file that you've just uploaded. We don't need so much the hash, we just want the link really. So we're going to do something with that, but we'll keep the code in here to console log it just so we can see what's going on here. But underneath that, what we're actually going to do is return what it gives us back from this linked upload. So once it's uploaded our file, it's going to give us the link for that file, and we want to return it in this function. So we have it here. So the next thing we'll do is upload the metadata object. Now, whenever you look at any NFT, it will generally have metadata attached to it, of which there's going to be a name, a description, and an image. There's probably going to be a lot more information than that, but it generally has all three of those at least. So we will build that into ours in just a moment. So this is an object. So let's just go down to the Moralis docs, saving objects here. You can upload JSON objects directly from JavaScript by saving the base64 string. Moralis will automatically create the buffer from the base64 provided, and it just so happens that we have that little bit that we need here. So it just says create a variable called object and put your key value pairs in that object, and then that object will be fed into this part of the Moralis.file function, and that's all we need. And then we will just save that afterwards. So we'll copy that, paste it in here, we'll put that into another function, and we'll call this function upload metadata. Call it what it is, which is an async function that's going to actually need to pass some information here. So we're going to need to pass it an image URL. Right, we'll just go with that for the moment. And when that function is called, I'm going to start by doing this. So we are going to need to create an object like it said before, and we'll call that object metadata, and we'll start building that object out in just a moment, because we're going to need to find how it's going to get the information about the name and the description and the image. Okay, so to get the name, we already have that in an input. We have that up here. So it's going to be whatever is in metadata name. So our name variable will go and grab document.getElement by ID. It's going to be that metadata name, and we need its value. And we'll copy that, because the next thing we need is for the description, and that one is metadata description. So that will be for those two. So we can start building this object out already. So the first one is going to be name, which will be the name. And the next one's going to be the description, which will be the description we've just started. And the final one is going to be, and it needs to be colon. The final one's going to be the image. So we need to pass in whatever we get back from this function here into this function here. So you can chain it together if you like, however you want to do that. That's what we're going to do. So whatever we pass in here is going to be the URL of the image that we've just uploaded. So we can just use that. URL. I chose the wrong one. Okay, so that is going to be our object. So let's just have a quick look through this. So we have got the Moralis code, which is going to first of all save. That would need to be underneath. Here we go. So we'll start that again. We need to first of all build out our metadata object, and to do that we're going to need a name, a description, and an image URL. Once we've built that object, we can pass that object in through our Moralis code here. So the file is going to be a new Moralis file. It's a JSON file, and the metadata is what we're going to pass it, and it will save that. The final thing we now need to do is find a way of getting the image URL into this function, and that's where we're going to call our final function to sort of pull everything together. So our go function is going to be pretty straightforward. I think that's what we called it. Where's the button? There it is. Let's just build this function out. So it's going to be an async function. And in there, we're going to do two things. So the first one that we need to do is to, we'll call it image. Well, we're going to have to await whatever comes back from this function here. We'll call that function first. And once we've got that back, we can then call this function. And we're going to pass it some information. So what do we need to pass it? Well, we need to pass it the image. So we're waiting for this function to return the URL. Once we've got it, it's going to store it in this variable. And then the next thing we're going to do is call this function with that variable. And that's how we're going to chain together and get our image URL, pass it into our object, and then go and put that all into IPFS at the end. And I guess the final thing we should probably do after it's got our final metadata is to go and get the URL. And we can actually just call that function file.ipfs. And it's capital letters. Or is it? Maybe it's not. Okay, so yes, if you remember from the first part that we did, this is what we would get back. We would get access to that particular function once we pressed save, or once we call the save function. Okay, so we will console log everything. So just a quick run through of that. So we have created an authenticate function. We've logged in. We've then uploaded an image, and that image will provide us back a URL for where the image is stored on IPFS. That's the first step. The second step is to compile an object of metadata, of which the image is one of those things. We've passed that image into the function so it can use it. And once it's built that object, it can then save that to IPFS, and we will then be able to go and get the URL of that final second save and put that in our console. Let's run it. Let's see if it works, see what kind of errors or problems that we get. And we'll call it the final NFT. This is the final NFT, and we'll use just the same image just so we can see if it works. So I'll press go. I need to go into the console to see if there's any problems here. And I'll just clear that, and we'll try that one more time. There we go. So you can see in the console we have back two. The first one is just the image, and the second one is going to be the metadata. Final NFT, this is the final NFT, and there is our image. So there you go, guys. That has shown you how to combine both saving objects and saving files, and putting both of them up onto IPFS, and combining all of that into an object, which you typically see as part of the metadata for an NFT. Guys, if that was useful and it helped you, then leave a like, subscribe to the channel, join the Discord as well, get involved in the community, and we look forward to seeing what it is you're building with Moralis. Take care.